Maybe it is time for the Jedi to end. Hey movie fans, welcome once again to another interesting movie review. Today we're reviewing Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Alright, there's a lot of mixed reactions when it comes to this movie because it was a movie that was long anticipated, probably the most anticipated movie of the year, and just mind you, this is the spoiler review, okay? I wanted to see it a second time for things to really sink in and analyze deeper, but I haven't had a chance, and since I caught it on Thursday rather than on Friday, I wanted to give it to you as soon as possible. And yeah, mixed bag here. So there's always positives, there's always negatives. Today I'm gonna start with the positives, what I really enjoyed about the movie. There are some very good scenes in the movie, and those good scenes are even very, very good scenes. They're really great. The cinematography is spectacular. It's really, really great. I mean, the special effects on everything, the space battles, the land battles, the action sequences, the lightsaber fights, they're all incredible. The movie looks just impressive. It's really, really great. ILM is bringing the big guns with this movie. The movie just looks awesome, all right? The performances were great. Even from the smaller characters, their performances were great. They really got into their characters. They really took it seriously. And the direction there by Rian Johnson was spectacular. Everybody brought their A game to this movie, even in smaller parts. For example, Laura Dern, she played a character that, even if the character really could have been played by anybody, and it was a very, very small part, she took it seriously and she played it very, very well. Benicio del Toro, you know, his little quirks, it reminded me a little bit of Usual Suspects. But again, he came and he did the best that he could with what he was given as a character. And it was very, very nice. The Rose, Finn storyline, they played it as best as they could. And not to mention Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. He was phenomenal as Luke Skywalker. He was great. Kylo Ren, still one of my favorite characters in the new trilogy. He's continuously evolving, and you can see the inner conflicts, and you know how he's, maybe in The Force Awakens we weren't sure of how good or bad he was ultimately going to be. Even when he killed his dad, when he killed Han Solo, and we were like, no, that was a big, big moment. We were still like, maybe he can still come back. Maybe this is going to be the catalyst to bring him back to the light side. But you can see his progression, like, no, he doesn't want to have anything to do with the light side. He really wants to be, you know, the ruler of the galaxy. So it's interesting to see his evolution as a character, and he's doing a wonderful job. The same thing with the character of Rey. She's great in every scene that she's in, when she's training with Luke on the island. Everything that has to do with the performances, with the cinematography, with the way the movie was directed, it's fantastic. It's really, really great, and I'm sure that a lot of people are just going to fall in love with this movie, especially newer generations, because it's a fresher take on Star Wars. When The Force Awakens came out, it was like they were like, oh, we don't know how far into the other direction we want to go. Let's keep it safe. Let's keep it Star Wars-y, but in the same type of storytelling. And the biggest flaw where people are complaining the most about in The Force Awakens is that it was too much like A New Hope. Here, they took, you know, bold decisions into going into places that maybe Star Wars had never gone. So props to them, and especially the new generation, the newer kids, the younger kids are probably gonna love it, because maybe they didn't grow up with the original trilogy like many of us did. So their attachment to Star Wars is not from there, but it's starting anew with a new trilogy. So I'm sure they're gonna love the way everything is being portrayed here, the way the Jedi use the Force even. So I'm sure they're gonna love it. The problem is probably the rest of us who grew up with the original trilogy, and we had already made up our mind on how Star Wars should work or what Star Wars should be. And that brings me to the negatives. I don't know, it's very difficult to review movies today because I believe that audiences are getting more savvy when it comes to filmmaking. Filmmaking has really come to the front for it as a mainstream type of career. A lot of people are involved into filmmaking these days. The easier access to technology today as opposed to 20, 30, 40 years ago. So people are very, very aware on how a film is made. Tons and tons and tons of reviewers on YouTube are either students of filmmaking or are amateur filmmakers or even professional filmmakers, screenwriters, people who are studying right now, people who have been on TV, short parts on movies or theater even. So people know how stories are supposed to be put together now more than before. So we're gonna scrutinize storytelling a lot more than we used to do in the past. And I think that's where filmmakers today have to really think about the decisions they're making and how they're going about their filmmaking, because it's not as easy to fool an audience today. Or at least a group of the audiences, like reviewers or people who are into filmmaking. Mainstream audiences probably are fine with it. But my issues with Last Jedi had to do with actually the storytelling. So I told you, right, this is spoiler territory. So one of the worst things about this movie, or the things that were my least favorite, were the Rose and Finn arc, where they have to go, on this side quest to go find this code breaker so they can go into the Star Destroyer and disable the tracker. And this takes you away from the story immediately, because it's like half an hour of a story that goes nowhere, that is boring, that it doesn't feel like Star Wars, kills the pacing. There's like a message here about animal cruelty, and I mean, we're all up for it, right? I love animals, but I don't think this was the place to put it in. It could have been done maybe more subtly in a different situation within the movie, something quick to address and move on. Instead, they just kept going and going and beating you over the head with this thing. It felt like in the end, just to introduce this new kid who's force sensitive, and we don't even know where that's gonna go. And that whole sequence is just dreadful, because they find this. They say we didn't find the code breaker, we found a code breaker, Benicio del Toro's character, who ultimately betrays them, and the mission served for nothing, because they were not able to do what they were supposed to be doing, because in the end it really didn't matter, because the Rebel Alliance already had a plan on what they were going to do. So it's like, so why did we go here? It didn't lead anywhere. So that was probably the worst part. The same thing with the relationship between the characters. Rose is going to be one of those easily forgotten characters. Merchandise wise, they have the action figure and they're trying to bring in new characters. The difference is that back in the day, and this is what I was referring to as in filmmaking, serious filmmaking, is that people really didn't rely on special effects back then. They relied on the story. So they really took care of characters in developing characters. Even when their appearances were brief, they became legendary, like Boba Fett. He has like 1 or 2 lines in the entire saga, in the original saga. And, he even dies. Even George Lucas said, yeah, he was supposed to be dead. I meant him to be dead. But he became legendary. And, comic books and side stories, and then they brought him back. But it was not because of the amount of time he was on screen, but the way he was portrayed. just with enough secrecy to make him, very, very interesting without him being boring. But today it's like, oh, we need a love interest, someone to bring in here to spice things up, and he falls flat on his head, on his face. It's horrible. Easily forgotten character. Towards the end, when she sacrifices, when like that was one of the parts. Like, the movie is very inconsistent in tone. Like, it begins to build up to these emotional big moments, and then they kill them, and then it's like, no, let's keep it going again. So they try to bring the emotions up again when they already killed it the first time. And in The Force Awakens, when Finn is introduced, and even from the trailers, remember that a lot of us fans, we were throwing out theories on he was the next Jedi, he was Force sensitive because of all the merchandising, because of the marketing, he was with the lightsaber. So we were like, all right, he is the next Jedi. And it was a very, very nice surprise that he actually wasn't. It was Rey. So his story was like building up, and I felt this would be a very fitting end to Finn, because he understands his place in this right now. He's seen Rey, he's seen the rebels, he's seen Poe, so he's like, all right, this is the one thing I can do. I'm not a Jedi, I'm not Force sensitive, I'm not the commander of this new rebel fleet, but if there's one thing I can do, then I'll do it, because all of these other people are sacrificing so much. I have no family, I don't have ties to anything. This is the one good thing that I could do. And that would have been great. He would have been a hero of the rebellion by sacrificing himself to destroy this machine towards the end of the movie. And he was building up, the music was building up, and I'm thinking, this is awesome. This is awesome. Finn is gonna do something incredible. He's a character that we love, and now he's gonna be gone, and we're gonna miss him, and he's gonna make an impact on the story. Nope. Rose is going to save the day. No, not save the day. Just save him. Just so that she can say, that's how we'll win this war. Not by destroying things, but by saving those we love, or something like that. And gives Finn a kiss, and Finn is like, did you just kiss me? Because I kind of like Rey. I don't know who you are. And so I'm like, okay, so she sacrificed. I'm trying to justify the directors and the screenplay in saying, okay, she sacrifices herself so that Finn can go on, because she knows he could be of more impact, he can be of more help to the rebellion than she could ever be. They need him more than they need her. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this, like, all right, that's the reason she did this. That's why she sacrificed herself, and that's why she died, so that he can go on and do something great. And then she sent the Millennium Falcon in the end, so she didn't die. So what was the point of all of that? She sabotaged an important part of the mission because they were trying to escape. She stopped them from that. So that's a dumb character moment in the movie, and I was like, all right, no. And then the same thing happens over and over again. The same thing with Rey and Kylo Ren. They have this amazing thing where they start connecting through the Force, and you start thinking, okay, she is gonna try to save him. He is gonna try to persuade her into turning into the dark side. So that's a fun type of thing, because we have been theorizing, is Rey gonna turn to the dark side? And she never does. She's never really even tempted. It's more like we're led to believe that that Kylo is going to turn to the light side. Like they're going to join forces. He's gonna see the error of his ways. And again, I'm trying to justify this into saying, okay, because Snoke is supposed to be the new emperor, this huge, evil, big baddie, and it's gonna take more than one person to take him on and bring him down. And instead it's just like, well, he's giving his speech, just like most villains do in movies, and we have all this exposition and he's distracted, and then Kylo turns the lightsaber around and kills him, and it's like, that's it for Snoke, the big bad guy that was gonna rule the galaxy. Again, such a forgettable villain. It never paid off. We were led to believe from The Force Awakens that he was like even worse than the Emperor. You know, how did he find Kylo Ren, like, when I first met you, and all that dialogue? When did that happen? How? Why? What was the point of all of this? It led to nothing. He was just like saving the chair for Kylo ultimately to take over. And it was like, another thing that really bothered me was that something that people have criticized, and even George Lucas said, you know, even if the prequels were horrible and badly accepted, I was never afraid of going into new directions and try new things, not try to repeat yourself. And if The Force Awakens was like a rehash or a recycle of A New Hope, then this is Empire and Jedi put together. And the movie starts with this amazing opening scene with a fight in space, which we had never seen, because that's something that usually builds up towards the end of the movie. And it starts like this and it's amazing. But as that's happening, I'm thinking, this looks a lot like Return of the Jedi, you know, when they're trying to destroy the Death Star, the second Death Star. And then they end up, you know, with the walkers on Octu, is the planet, that looks like snow, but it's salt. They even make a point of going like, it's salt, so it's not snow. So it's not Hoth, it's not snow, it's salt. So they just inverted scenes and they put them in different places, but it was the same thing. The first movie that I ever went to see from Star Wars was not A New Hope, was Empire Strikes Back. And I'm just a little 5-year-old kid in the movie theater looking at that huge screen when those walkers come in. And it was such an emotional impact, a visual impact, because it was showing you the might of the Empire, how the Rebel Alliance is insignificant compared to the power of the Empire. And you see those big walkers coming in, and the Rebellion is just firing and firing, and they just can't stop this unstoppable force. And the impact was so great from the storytelling point of view. You have different shots from the walkers to show you the scale. You know, the speeders flying around the legs, people running underneath. It was just amazing. And as they kept getting closer, you can hear the mechanical parts of the walkers coming in. It was just an incredible experience. So I was very excited to see the walkers again. And what we get to see in the movie is pretty much what we saw in the trailers. It's just like this one shot from the side, probably. And the only thing they do to show you the scale is that next to the new walkers, you see the old AT-ATs, so that you can see, oh, these are so much bigger than the other AT-ATs. But as you're watching the movie, you completely ignore the smaller ones, because the big ones take up all the scene. But it doesn't feel epic. You really don't see the scale. You never really feel in danger from them, because they're all the way in the back, and you know the speeders are coming in, and they never really make any damage as it was in the Empire. So it's like wasted opportunity of a scene, and they completely killed it with the whole Finn and Rose thing. So it was all these moments, and then the Falcon comes in, and they go into the caverns inside the planet, and the TIE fighters are in, and the music is playing to the Return of the Jedi Falcon Han Solo thing, and it's like I'm sitting there and I'm literally doing this. Is anybody saying this? Because it just looks like Return of the Jedi again. Even when the Falcon comes out and the rock breaks, it's like when the Falcon comes out of the Death Star and the flames come out and the Falcon makes it out just in time. It was the same thing. The comedy lands flat many times. Like the very first time that we see Finn and he wakes up, And you know, it was a nice moment of him waking up and going like, Rey. And then boom, he bangs his head on the dome thing, and I'm like, why? And then he falls over from the gurney, and the liquid is coming out, and he's walking around naked, and BB is like, oh, there's Finn, and he's naked, and he's spilling water. I was like, this doesn't feel like the right place for this type of comedy right now, because he was a hero that we didn't know what was going to happen to him. He nearly dies towards the end of the first movie, and this is the first time we see him, and he's acting all goofy like this. And then in the middle of the battle in the third act, you know, the porgs, which are really, really great and really fun, and I really enjoy them in the movie, they're just there as product placement. It's just to sell toys, and I'm probably gonna buy one anyways. But they serve no purpose whatsoever other than to annoy Chewie, and then so that you can buy the toy. And you know, they're there in the cockpit of the Falcon, and the Falcon does this hard turn, and the porg is just into the window. Boom! It just served for like child comedy, just like, let's give the children a laugh. I was a little kid when I watched the first Star Wars movies, and I didn't need that type of comedy to keep me invested in the story, because the story itself was like a great, you know, bedtime story with great characters, great action, with the, you know, the damsel in distress in the princess, but who was also a fighter, you know, the hero with the lightsaber battling the dragon that was Darth Vader. It was so cool that as a child you didn't need the comedy. But now it's like, no, we gotta throw something in for the kids, and so we can sell toys. And it's completely out of place, and I really didn't like that part at all. So as you can see, most of my negatives have to do with storytelling, with pacing. The movie starts with them trying to escape from the fleet. They jumped into hyperspace. They are caught on, so they are continuing trying to escape from the fleet in the second act. And you built into the third act, and the Empire is again there. Well, the New Order is there. And they're still trying to escape from them. So it's like first, second, and third act. The mission is not to destroy anything, is not to get anything, is not to build up to anything, it's just to get away from the New Order, from the First Order. And that just happens over and over and over again. The part of Rey and Luke training, it was great, it was awesome, but again, it was Empire Strikes Back again. It's just pretty much what happened to Yoda, that he was this wise, great warrior from the prequels, and his time in exile turned him into a little funny character. The same thing is happening to Luke now. He goes into exile because he feels he failed the Jedi, and the whole thing is just Empire Strikes Again. Strikes Back again. And while it's fun to see, it really goes nowhere, because Luke never really takes it upon himself to train Rey properly, other than give her some tips, because he feels the Jedi need to end, which was a nice touch, I'll admit. When he says, you know, to think that the Force will be gone once the Jedi are dead is vanity. That's true, because that's not what the Force is about. It's not how the Force works. You know, it's like, the Jedi are just people who are Force sensitive and eventually follow this religion, and they become protectors of the galaxy. And when they have no guide, they will continue to be Force sensitive, and it will be up to them to decide if they're going to serve the light of the dark or the dark. So that was interesting. But then again, when George Lucas set out to make this story, even though we understand there's characters that come from other places, it's about the Skywalker family. And it's okay to veer away and look at other people in the universe and how they can be Jedi. And they can be interesting characters, but it was always about the Skywalkers. You know, it was Anakin, it was Luke, now it's Kylo. And it's nice. But it's like they wanted to cram a lot of things into this thing, because in the end, when Luke dies, it feels anticlimactic, and I hated it. And I tell you why. When we are introduced to Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, he is such a great influence, and he builds up. when he dies in Jedi, you know, it's a logical step because when we met him, he was already old. We pretty much just had his stories. We sort of had an idea what had happened. But from the moment we met him, we knew that he wasn't going to be around for long. And when he dies, it's during a pivotal moment where he's finally going to reveal or confirm to Luke his fears of who Anakin was. And when Yoda dies, you really feel the moment. He didn't die battling or fighting, but you feel, you know, that he had this long life where he trained Jedi, where he once was a warrior, but now his moment has come. But it comes in the third movie when everything is wrapping up. Here, we only saw Luke in the first movie, in the last scene of the movie, in the last shot of the movie, and now he dies in the second one. When this is Luke Skywalker, all right, this is the hero. This is the guy that we followed in this amazing story the first time around. So even though I'm fine from the story point telling that Luke Skywalker could die and he should die, I would say that for the third movie, where everything is wrapping up, and not right now in the middle, because it's like, so what's gonna happen to Kylo now? Who's gonna help Rey? You know, where's the wise man that is going to guide her in this new hero's journey? You know, who's gonna fill that spot? And this is Luke Skywalker, and for him to die, I mean, it looked cool. And the way he projected himself onto Kylo and to Leia and everything, that was cool looking. But if I think about it, it's like, this is not the way Luke should go out. We already lost Han. Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to be dead from Empire even. But he was such a great character, as I said before, that's why it built up to being such an iconic character. Much so Luke Skywalker. And now he's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do this final thing and be one with the Force because the Jedi need to end and I'm tired or whatever. So I was like, no, if anything, maybe Luke could have died fighting Kylo. If you're gonna take beats from the original movie so much and you're going to imitate so much, not even an homage in one scene or in a few lines, but like the whole thing is beat by beat, then might as well have him fight Kylo for real and sacrifice himself so that he can then guide Rey or something. So that's me, at least. That's how I felt when him dying. And moments like this were, like I mentioned already with Finn, the same thing happens with Leia. From marketing, from interviews, they already said, you know, this is going to be a farewell to Carrie Fisher. This is when we say goodbye to her, because we're not going to revive her through CGI. And so we're like, okay, so how is this going to go? And then from the trailer, when, you know, from the lines, you got to let the past die. Kill it if you have to. And, you know, Kylo is there in his fighter and he's gonna shoot Leia. I'm already thinking, okay, he's beyond redemption after killing Han Solo. But it would only make sense. All right, he's already gone. And if Leia's gonna be gone, then what's the point? He even tries to kill Luke in the end when he's like, everything that we got, just shoot at that man. Like, he has no heart for his family anymore. So I was like, just go for it, man. Just go for it. Let us hate this character. Let's make him as evil as possible because he's trying to live up to Darth Vader. And so far he hasn't. He's failing. Even Snoke is like, you're just a boy with a mask. And this drives him insane. So why not just kill Leia there? Instead, we're led to believe he's gonna, but he doesn't. But then the other fighters do it. And she flies into space and we're like, okay, this is the farewell, okay. Maybe there's some redemption. Again, I'm trying to justify everything. So maybe there's going to be some redemption to Kylo, because he didn't kill his mother. But they still tried to kill her. But then she's not dead. She comes back. what's the farewell then? She's alive there somewhere on a spaceship. What are you gonna say now? That, oh yeah, she was on a ship and the ship was destroyed. What kind of farewell is that to one of the most iconic characters? This was the moment where her leaving the trilogy, her leaving the saga, would have been a lot more intense, and the impact would have been a lot greater if ultimately Kylo just does it and he's just doing away with anything that had to do with his family, just annihilating everybody. So again, wasted opportunity. So now what's gonna happen to her? How are we gonna say goodbye to her? But we do kill Luke when Mark Hamill is still alive, when he could play Luke Skywalker one final time and go out like Luke Skywalker. Ah man, all of these things are what make me think, I don't know man, because like I said, the great things about the movie are really great, but they have to do more with the cosmetics of the movie rather than with the story that is ultimately the most important thing. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of other things when it comes to this movie, but this is just the first impression that I got. All the negatives really bothered me. I don't know what's going to happen in the next one. Oh yeah, for example, there was this build-up. There were all these theories of who is Rey? Is she going to be the last Jedi? Is she related to Luke? Some people were like, no, she's related to Kenobi. Because it happened because in The Force Awakens, first we were led to believe that it was Finn who was Force sensitive. So it was a nice surprise to say, no, he wasn't. It's Rey. There's something about Rey that we need to find out. Who dropped her off in this planet? You know, was it Luke? Was it someone else? Was it another Jedi? So we're throwing theories around because there had to be something a lot more meaningful to her, because that's how the story was put together from the get-go. And now it's like, your parents were no ones. They're drunks. They sold you off for drinking money. They're buried somewhere in the desert. You come from nowhere. So why was their connection so close with Kylo if they were not even related? So why bother building up this character's backstory in such a way that we're expecting something big to happen just to say no? Because see, the point of the story is that anyone can be Force sensitive. Then she just should have appeared. Her powers should have just keep popping up and we really don't know, but without hinting to anything else. And eventually just because the whole time is like we're led to believe that the Kylo knows something, and that's why they have this connection, and we were waiting for that reveal. So if she comes from no one and she's a nobody, why does he know so much, or why does he care so much? It should have been just like when Snoke says he found Kylo. Like Kylo should have been like, who's this girl? Interesting. You're Force sensitive? Alright, let's train you. We don't care who you are. No, it was always like this thing like, oh, I know something that you don't know, that maybe I'm going to reveal someday. And then it's like, nobody. So I'm like, ah. And then the kid in the end, that was like, okay, the Jedi can survive, they will survive, there will always be someone out there. But now it's like, okay, why is the director trying to do here? Because it felt like we had to go on this side story that took us nowhere to come back and just say, maybe this kid is something special. And finally, Poe Dameron, great. His character arc was probably the most complete along with Luke's. He understands in the end, he changes in the end. But then again, I'm like, why couldn't the commander just tell him what was going on? He's a smart man. When the plan is revealed to him, he's like, that's a good plan. Yeah, let's do that. Why wouldn't he understand that from the beginning? Why couldn't they just tell him, listen man, this is what we're doing, alright? We need to distract them long enough so that we can escape here without being seen. So that's what we're doing. He would have been like, okay, let me lead this mission. Instead, like, he creates this mutiny and they have to take him away. And I don't know, but it was interesting to see him grow as a person. That was really, really cool. But again, the movie just, even when BB is driving the chicken walkers, in the end I was like, now it's Attack of the Clones. Why? You're like, even in marketing, they had like the, not BB, I forgot his name, but you know, the Empire droid that is the black ball. At some point I felt it should be fun to see these two little balls go at each other in some scene while the big guys are fighting in the back. It never really happens other than, oh, the droid is like, oh, there's another droid. They never really face off, and then just BB saves the day by driving this big machine. They should have just had the porks do that. But, oh man. So that's it. So, with a lot of positive things that had to do with the technical aspect of the film, but all the negatives in the narrative, I'm giving The Last Jedi a thumb up and a thumb down. You are gonna fall either way. I fall on this side. Alright, you might like it, some people might not like it, so it's gonna be even lower than Justice League, which was ironic because I was hoping for more from Jedi than I was from Justice League, and Justice League surprised me by being fun. Not the best movie in the DC universe, but way better than the other ones. I wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it just fun. It was a fun time. But this one, I really needed more, being such a hardcore fan. But who knows, now we gotta wait to see the next movie to see where they go with all of this. Sorry for going on so long, but you know, this is Star Wars, this is fun, this is what we like to talk about. So what do you think about it? Comment below, leave a message, thumb up, like it, share, subscribe, and until next time, remember movie fans, I will see you at the movies.